Welcome to In the Loop Podcast, a podcast that is inspired by the Western culture and the rodeo industry. I am your host, Jordan Joe Hullabaugh, professional rodeo athlete, business owner, married to my best friend, full-time cowgirl, and I am blessed to get to do what I love to do each and every day. My goal is to promote this industry and specifically the sport of breakaway roping. On In the Loop Podcast, we are bringing you behind-the-scenes stories of what real life looks like every day, from cowgirls, cowboys, industry producers, leaders, trailblazers, you name it, we talk about it. We are sharing stories of this Western culture and the lifestyle that they live daily. Join me as we share these stories of the amazing triumphs, trials, and victories, defining moments that we all have along this journey of the amazing way of life that we live. You are officially in the loop. Let's get to it. Okay, guys, so today I have a very unusual guest on the podcast, but a very welcome guest. I have Lindsay Keller with the Bell Mare Book Co. And Lindsay is a mom of three, a wife. Rodeo has been in her blood, thick and thin. She's grown up in the Western industry, and we are going to talk today a little bit about the youth aspect of rodeo and the industry and what all it looks like. So, Lindsay, thank you so much for coming to the show today.
Thanks for having me, Jordan. I'm really excited to be here.
I was really excited when you reached out to me to be on the podcast. Obviously, I love to help businesses because at one point we were all a small business and we all needed help and we were all growing. And it's like, hey, this is my audience. I want to be on here. And just listening to your story about the Bell Mare Book Co. and children's books and games and coloring books and all the things that you've got going on, plus listening to the background and the history of rodeo that you have in your family, it was really neat to me. So introduce us a little bit to you and who you are outside of the Bell Mare Book Co. as a mom, as a wife, and as a lover of all things rodeo.
Yeah. So I grew up rodeoing. I'm a third generation competitor. My family's always been very involved in rodeo, and I just thought it was a wonderful lifestyle. So when my oldest, my son, when he really developed a love for horses and for roping and all things rodeo, I was 100% on board and totally wanted to support that, because what a dream come true, to have a wonderful childhood yourself growing up in the rodeo arena and then get to live it again through your children. So I have three kids, a son who's 8, and then identical twin girls who are 5. So my husband and I are pretty well burning up the Junior Rodeo Trail with them every weekend, which we wouldn't have it any other way. We've found, even though my husband and I both, before kids, enjoyed team roping and running barrels and breakawaying and stuff, now we wouldn't have it any other way than to watch them take our horses and compete on them. So.
Well, and that's what, as we were getting on this call, you were like, sorry, my day's been a little crazy so far. I'm sure you would understand with 3 kids. And I'm thinking, no, I have 3 dogs. I do not understand, but I know you're living and thriving in the chaos. And I'm like thinking, geez, Jordan, you think you have a busy schedule. And I have 3 dogs who I can put in a small kennel and feed them. And then they're still happy to see me when they get out. Like, you don't have that option. So talk about what it is being a mom and thriving in the chaos. You have 3 kids going all 3 different directions. I'm sure your husband, your wife, like, how do you thrive in the chaos?
Well, the beautiful thing about being involved in rodeo is like my kids have adult friends that jump in and help me when they can see that I'm drowning without me even having to ask. I mean, the twins, they can control their horses in the pattern where the horses know what the general idea of what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, they're both old ranch horses, but when they get, when I'm in the arena helping one twin, the other twin's kind of on her own because my husband's helping my son. But we just have so many wonderful rodeo friends that have become family that know my kids and want to see them succeed, and they jump in and help us. And it's just a blessing to be part of this industry.
Well, and that's one thing that I totally agree with is it's a blessing to be a part of this industry, and growing up and having a childhood with all the characteristics, the integrity, the responsibility, the devotion, the commitment. I mean, we could go on and on about all the things that we've learned, the life lessons we've learned through this industry, through rodeo, through horses, through traveling as a family, all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about where your passion came from. The Bell Mare Book Co., you and your mom, Marilyn, you are writing these books together. And your first book was released in 2017 called Short Go Makes the NFR. And so talk me through where the Bell Mare Book Co. came from and how that originated.
So back in 2017, my son was a toddler. And at that time, there just weren't a lot of children's books out there that felt like they were written by somebody that had actually stepped foot inside of a rodeo arena. They were all lassos and, kind of corny. And I just thought someday he's going to want a book that sets with him, that he can envision himself as these characters, that's authentic. And so my mom has always been an artist, but she kind of tries to keep that fact hidden from people until I, was like, hey, Mom, I have a toddler and I'm going to write him a book, and I think maybe you should illustrate it. And so she agreed, and we did it. And it was, we've learned so much about publishing and writing children's books and illustrating children's books since 2017. It's almost, laughable now at the lessons that we've learned along the way. But Short Go Makes the NFR is still our best-selling book. So I think, that little feeling that God gave me that it was time to write a children's book, I think was the right one. And we've only grown from there. Now we wrote Short Go Makes the NFR is a picture book. We wrote a second picture book called Short Go's Big Ranch Adventure. And then that morphed into a couple of coloring books, one called Ranchin' and Rodeoing, that basically if you see it at a ranch or a rodeo arena, it's in that coloring book. And that one is actually a hit with kids and adults. And then S is for Short Go, which is more of a preschool learning book, kids that are learning and mastering their numbers and letters. And then eventually those coloring books led us to games. So we have a memory game. I don't know if you played memory growing up, but the kids always win because adults' memories are shot. So if you want to boost your kids' confidence and put yours down a little, play Cow Kid Memory with them. And then we have Go Rodeo that we launched last year, which is the rodeo version of Go Fish. So you would say like, Jordan, do you have any breakaway ropers? No. Okay, Go Fish or Go Rodeo.
Yeah, Go Rodeo.
Cool. And then finally, last fall, we launched our first chapter book. Again, just kind of same scenario. My son's now into chapter books, but if anyone out there listening that has a boy, you know that it can be hard to get them to read because all the books available out there are about little girls and unicorns and horses and barrel racing. And that's great. I'm glad those books are out there. But there's, to my knowledge, no books out there about little boys playing pig on the dummy. And that's what he wants to read about. He wants to read about muddy rodeos and, playing pig and left leg and all of that. So that's where Short Go in the Junior Rodeo Trail came to be last year, was to write a book for little boys about the things they care about.
Well, and I mean, I just want to dive into this on so many different levels. But first and foremost, it's so important, especially in today's world, and what we're seeing is that this generation coming up, they're going to be the ones who lead us. And so planting those seeds and investing and harvesting in those children is so important. And what they're learning, what they're reading, what they're seeing, it would be scary to me to be a parent, honestly. And I'm so thankful for parents like yourself that are taking the lead here and being courageous and walking out here and be like, this is what I want my kid to be learning, to be knowing about, to be growing up in, to be experiencing these adventures and reading and learning and growing through them. So I applaud you for that, because I think that that's so vital in our industry. But it's also giving the industry a new insight and a new life and light to learning about rodeo as a youth, and getting to experience it in and outside of the arena. I would have never even thought about playing Go Rodeo as Go Fish. Like, how cool is that? And you're bringing every piece of the event and the industry and making it to where it's on a children's level, and that they can understand it and apply it. And I know too that within Bell Mare Book Co, you also have a blog, and you have all the things. Like, you are amazing. You're so intelligent how you've been like, okay, this is what my kid needs, and this is what I'm going to build out for him. So talk about why that's been so important for you and your heart. Not only that he's a young man growing up in this industry, but that you're planting those seeds and teaching him the ways of the Western culture.
Yeah. I mean, I think Chancey Williams says it best: the world needs more cowboys. So if I can get one more kid that kind of has horses in their backyard, and then they read this book and they tell their parents, hey, I'd like to go to a play day, or I want to go to a junior rodeo. Do you think I could start roping the dummy? Then mission accomplished with this whole thing. Because I just think, like you said, especially in today's world, like, what a blessing it is for children who have the opportunity to grow up outside with dirty hands roping a goat, instead of playing on an iPad. So I just want to do my part, do everything in my power to encourage parents and children alike that it's worth the work. Because trust me, if you're a rodeo mom out there, I understand the amount of work that goes into getting these kids up and down the road, keeping their horses tuned up while they're in school, when it's snowing, when it's raining. I get it. But I think it's worth it. Like, it's worth it 10 times over to someday get to go sit in the bleachers and watch your grandchildren rope.
Well, and I think too that there's one thing I love about the Bell Mare Book Co is there's something for everybody here. There's illustrated books, there are color books, there's games, there's now a chapter book, which I'm so excited about for you. And you also have a blog, and it's called the Cowkids blog, and you really go in depth and overboard on that blog. Break that down for me and tell me what all is in there. And if you have a kid, if you have a child, I'm like, if you have a kid, if you have a child and you're listening, how do you get the Cow Kid blog in front of your children?
So everything is on our website. Our tangible products are also in a lot of Western stores and boutiques. But the Cowkids Only blog, again, just kind of inspired by my son. He has these reading minutes that he has to get done every month, and he does not want to read the books that are at the library. And so, but the stuff out there that's written, like the instructional articles, they're not written for kids, and everything that you would instruct an adult on doesn't always translate to somebody who's 4 foot tall. and weigh 60 pounds. So the Cowkids Only blog was a little bit more fluid way, because as you can imagine, writing and illustrating a chapter book takes a bit of time. So the blog is free on our website every month, and it is written in a way that kids of reading age can understand it, comprehend it, and put it to use. We have a Q&A session with a professional rodeo athlete. We've had, of course, some family. Kelsey Domer, who is my cousin's wife, she was our guinea pig. She, of course, volunteered to help me out first. We've had Coleman Proctor. We've had Caleb Bennett, Caleb Smith. This month we're doing a goat tying one with Stacy Martin. Like, we've had some really awesome people step up to the plate and say, we love what you're doing. We'd love to help you out. Here's our thoughts for kids. We also have a devotional every month that has a Western tie to it. It's written by a cowboy pastor here in Oklahoma, where I live. We have a equine health tip that's pertinent to kids. So like last month, it was on the importance of not just leaving your leg gear on all day at a hot junior rodeo. Something that a kid can actually implement and do. We do reading comprehension problems. We do rodeo related math problems, like, if your horse eats however many pounds of hay a day, how much hay do you need to pack in the trailer if you're going to be gone 6 days, kind of thing. Just to give education a Western vibe so that kids care about it and understand why they need to use it.
Well, and I remember as I was growing up, that's just what we did. So I didn't ever think about it or didn't know any different, but there wasn't any learning tools that really applied to the Western industry at all. And so I think this is so cool how you're making it fun to learn, and you're making it fun to learn about cowboy stuff, because everybody at one point in their life wants to be a cowboy or a cowgirl. And two, I think that, my friends always wanted to come to my house because it was like a show and tell thing. Like, they wanted to come see the horses. They wanted to, it was like fascinating to them. But then, like, you got to cleaning stalls or something, like, oh no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So I think it's really neat how you're making it fun to learn and learn about what you're doing. Talk to me a little bit. I'm sure your son has been your biggest fan and critic all at the same time. Have you worked back and forth with him on, hey, do you like to read this? Or, hey, what do you think about this? How has that been?
Oh yeah. He's definitely our, target audience for sure. And also our best sounding board. If I don't know if you can see this, but this is actually a picture of him on the cover of the chapter book that my mom, recreated. But he's great because he's exactly who we want to reach. A little boy who does not love to read and would rather be roping than being in school. And so, if we write something that's a hit with him, then we're like, okay, great. It'll be a hit with everybody.
Well, I know that my husband is a full grown man, and he still talks about how he hated school and he hated to read and all that stuff. But I mean, you stick something in front of him that had anything to do with a horse and a cow, and he was all in and wanted to get his hands dirty and get the mud and all the things. I don't know. I think it's so cool how you've been able to do that and utilize your seasons that you're going through. Now you said you have a chapter book. Talk a little bit more about writing that chapter book and what that was like from, doing your first illustrated book in 2017 to now 2023, 2024. You've got a chapter book coming out.
Yeah. It's, I didn't know if I could do it, honestly. I mean, writing a picture book is one thing because that's, it's short and concise and quick, and you gotta, get your point across and get it across efficiently because a 3-year-old doesn't have a real long attention span. But the chapter book was different. I mean, it was like 12,000 words or something, which is still a fairly fast read for a chapter book. But, fortunately, like I said, part of what we really strive for is to create books that are authentic, that look real. We didn't want to draw just any dummy, just any sled that, somebody in the city could imagine. We wanted it to be a Smartie because that's what most people use. And so we were fortunate enough that we reached out to Smarty and asked them, hey, we've got this idea. We'd like to use your dummies. Would that be okay? And they, were like, yeah, that'll be okay. And we'll support you in however you want to make this happen. So, that was wonderful. And they continue to help us with the blog. They just really have stood behind us and believe in what we're doing. And so that definitely puts a little feather in your hat, make you feel like what you're doing is worthwhile when a big company like that agrees with you. So anyway, but we, it is basically inspired by Trig. It's about a little boy named Max and his horse Short Go. And they hit the Junior Rodeo Trail with the goal of, by the end of the summer, being able to rope a live calf in the breakaway at their junior rodeo season. So, as anybody who has ever swung a rope before knows, there's lots of peaks and valleys that go with that, especially for kids. So he learns on the Smarty sled, and, he thinks, oh, well, I can rope the dummy 50 times in a row on the ground. This will be easy on a horse. And then he learns that it's not. And he, he has to deal with mud rodeos and the arena being too wet to practice, and how you overcome all of that. And, parents will also appreciate the message of it pays off to never give up, and trusting that if it wasn't your day at the rodeo, God has a different plan for you. Trying to start educating kids on, we don't have control over our life and our outcome. We have to put in the work like we have the control, but ultimately we don't. And we have to be okay with that. You have to let it go. You can't let failures or setbacks ruin your day or your life.
Well, and I think that that's one thing that is so important to, even I'm still learning as a young adult. I'll say I won't age us because we're kind of the same age. I'm learning how to embrace the peaks and valleys, learning how to embrace winning and losing. I think that that's something that is crucial to have a good perspective on, maybe not even the word failure, but not obtaining what you want, and having a good outlook and being like, okay, good. Now, how am I going to figure that out? And what can I do to get through that? And maintaining that perspective and teaching your children, it's not okay to lose, but I don't even know how you would say that correctly. You might have to step in here on a mom's front, because like I said, I'm not a mother, so I can't speak for this, but knowing that, you're going to endure loss. You're going to endure defeat. Yep. How do you manage it? How do you get through it? How do you continue to move forward? And I think that is making these kids and children better people and better competitors.
Yeah. I just always tell mine, you have to be grateful for the opportunity regardless of the outcome, because there are kids all over the world who would do anything to have the horse you have, even on that horse's worst day. There are kids all over the world who would love to get in your truck that maybe broke down on the way to the rodeo, because they would do anything, even if it meant hitchhiking to get to a rodeo. So even if you throw your loop in the dirt, you have to be so grateful that you had the opportunity to go. And that's kind of, a theme through all of our books, like, teaching the love of the horse, regardless of what happens at the end of the day, because that's what's going to get kids. That's what's going to keep kids involved, because like you said, you're not going to win every time you nod your head. You're not going to win every time you enter the barrel race. So you have to love the sport and love the horse first, and the winning has to be second.
Well, and we're just talking about young men here. My husband, he grew up and his parents knew nothing about rodeo. And so he did it all on his own, as far as, obviously not on his own. His parents helped him and took him and all the things, but they didn't have any education. So he had to learn. He had to try to get in front of those people. His mom and dad, Ernie Taylor was one of the guys that did a clinic when my husband was going. And so he went to his clinics, but he was 13 years old and had one horse and one calf and one rope, and they all lived in the same stall. And I'm like,
Yeah.
how did they not eat the tail? Like, your calf didn't eat your horse's tail? Here I am thinking that. And he's like, no, they were fine. They were friends. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So, but just the fact, like, he sincerely loves the sport of rodeo and loves roping and loves horses and loves cattle. Like, it is a deep down to his core of his heart. It's his true love. And I think that's what it's taught him and how he grew up doing it. And if you love it that much, we heard Shelby Bosley Medjed this year, in one of the interviews I got to do with her at the NFBR. She said, you have to love it. You have to love it. And you sincerely do, through the peaks and the valleys. So I think that's a great perspective and a method to teach these young men and women to embrace as they're growing up and reading the Bell Mare Book Co. books.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me now, what does it look like in the future? What do you have coming up for the Bell Mare Book Co.? How can people find you and go on and get these books and this blog for their kids?
Well, check with your local Western store first, especially I know if you're interested in the tangible products. You like to open up a book and look at the pages and look at the pictures, and that's not something you can do on the website. If your local Western store doesn't have it, then go to the website and either email us their information. We'd love to talk to them about carrying it, or you can order it online, the bellmarebookco.com. That is also where our blog lives, our Cowkids Only blog. So when you go to the site, there's should be a pop-up that comes up that you can sign up to receive emails when the new blog posts come out. Cowgirls Honor, we will not spam you. You will only get emails about new blog posts, the occasional sale that we run on the products, and any new products that come out. That's the only thing we use our email list for. So, but pretty much everything is on the website, thebellmarebookco.com. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We do a little bit of everything, kind of an insight as to what, I'm experiencing as a rodeo mom, my kids are experiencing as rodeo kids, as well as information about the products and the blog. So yeah, that's the best way to find us.
Well, I love that. I love all the things you're doing, Lindsay. Congratulations on this amazing accomplishment. I'm so glad that your son did not want to read, and you have provided material for him to read and be involved in. All the young men out there, and young ladies too. There's coloring books, there's games, the blog is amazing. You guys need to go check it out. You can find all of these links on our show notes. It will be also on our website and on our YouTube. So if you haven't already, give us a rating on anything you watch or listen to our podcast on. We appreciate you. Subscribe, and we will be back with you next week to catch up with another guest on our episode. So Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We enjoy watching everything you're doing out there to promote the sport of breakaway.
Thank you. I appreciate it.